Good morning, students. We're going to have a chapel time today, and I'm going to be sharing a story with you about a time that I experienced fear and overcame that fear with boldness and courage. When I was a little girl, my parents took me to summer camp every summer for a number of summers. My dad would go and volunteer to be a healthcare provider at camp, and he would take care of the campers and the staff. And then my mom and my brother and I would get to kind of wander around camp and do a lot of the activities that the campers did. And I discovered through that experience that I really, really enjoyed camp. Our camp was out in Oregon. It was called Big Lake Youth Camp. And there were so many fun things like riding the rocket behind the motorboat, jumping off the tall platform onto the blob, going horseback riding, sailing, BMX, mountain biking on tracks. I guess you go BMX biking and then you also go mountain biking out in the woods. And we would have such a good time just playing and having fun at camp. And when I was 10, my mom said, "You're old enough to go to a camp on your own. We're not going to go next summer." And I was pretty excited because I was kind of getting to the age where it kind of seemed a little weird to have my parents at camp. And I really wanted to be a regular camper. And one of the fun things about being a regular camper was we would get to have one activity all morning for the whole week and then in the afternoon rotate through different activities. And so it was kind of a big deal which activity you would get into to spend your mornings. And the one activity I wanted to do more than any of the others was water skiing. And so when the camp brochure came in the mail, I looked through it carefully and filled it out. You got to put your top 3 choices, and you weren't guaranteed to get your first choice, but I really hoped I was going to get to have water skiing for my activity. And we sent the application off in the mail. There wasn't internet in the olden days. You actually had to mail in applications and then wait for them to process it and send it back. And finally, the letter came in the mail, and I opened it. And it said, "Congratulations, you will be going to Junior 2 and taking water skiing." I was very, very excited about this. And when it finally came time to go to camp, I could hardly wait because I was going to learn to slalom ski, not just any old kind of water skiing. I had seen the camp staff and some of the older campers in the past out on the water behind the boat on one ski. And they did this really cool thing where they would cut across the wake and they would have this rooster tail plume of water sky high behind them. It looked like it was so much fun. And so camp started. Moved into my cabin and got all settled in. I chose a top bunk, like that idea. And finally, it was the evening of the first day. And on the evenings of camp, we always would have something called campfire. And at campfire, they would start out by singing songs. They would have a news report that would talk about what happened in the week. They would sometimes play Minute to Win It, give a Jesus gem to kids that had been witnessing or showing characteristics of Jesus to others around camp. They would always have some sort of a play that staff would perform that would help us understand what our theme of the summer was. And each summer they would pick a new theme, and with the stories that they would act out, they would always have a theme song. And this particular summer, the theme was bravery. And the theme song was a song called Be Bold. And the first night, they would always spend extra time teaching the theme song. So that night, we learned Be Bold. Be bold. Be strong. For the Lord your God is with you. Do not be afraid. Do not be dismayed. For the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Be bold. And we sang that song over and over again until it was part of who we were for that whole week of camp. I didn't know that first night how important that song was going to be to me as I faced the challenge of learning how to water ski. The first morning, we went down to the waterfront to learn how to ski. They divided us into small groups based on our knowledge of skiing, and I had never skied. I had seen people ski, but I had never skied myself. So I was in the very very, very beginner boat with a few other of my fellow campers, and we had a boat driver whose name was Jeff. And Jeff's boat had a boom on it. And the boom was a long black pole that attached to the center of the boat. And you would then hold on to the boom out in the water on the side of the boat and stand up on your water skis to be able to learn to get the feel of what it's like to ski. And then once you got that down, you would then be able to advance to learning how to ski on the rope behind the boat. And so Jeff first made sure we all had our life jackets on that fit, and he had us practice putting skis on land so that we could do it out in the water. And then he took us out. And I was really excited because I figured this was going to take maybe a day or two at the most. And then I was going to be slalom skiing. I was be on that one ski behind the boat, cutting those really cool turns. And then it was my turn to try. And I had my 2 skis on, and I squatted down below the boom, and I held on really tight. And Jeff started off the boat, and as he started, my hands kind of slipped, and I felt scared. And the boat kept going, and I went splat, smash in the water. That was not fun. Jeff came around and had me try again, and had me try again, and had me try again. By the end of the first day, I'd gotten up maybe for a few minutes, and he said, "That's okay. Those of you that had challenges today can try again tomorrow." So the next day, most of our group moved over to another boat where they were going to try getting up on the rope behind the boat, and we got to try the boom again and again and again. Eventually, though, I did manage to get up on the boom on 2 skis while Jeff was driving the boat. Felt pretty good about it. I was a water skier. And then he said, "Tomorrow we're taking off the boom, and you guys are going to be pulled behind the boat." I wasn't so sure. I felt like I pretty much had learned how to ski. Jeff said, "Nope, don't be afraid. Remember, be bold, be strong." And so the next day, as I walked down to the waterfront, that song was in my heart. Be bold, be strong. I can do this. I can do this. And sure enough, when it was my turn to go behind the boat on my 2 skis and hold on, and the boat started taking off, wouldn't you know it, my hands started slipping and splat. Down in the water I went yet again. Face plant. Now, if you're getting the idea that I'm not an athlete, that would be the correct idea. This is definitely one of the many challenges that I've had in my life with athletic activities. However, Jeff told me that he was going to make sure I water skied before the end of the week. And that day went by, and the next day, he finally helped me, and I got to stand on 2 skis behind the boat being pulled. And I was even able to cross the wake on one side, come back to the middle, and cross the wake on the other side. I was pretty excited because I was a water skier. And I pretty much felt like I had learned what I needed to, and I was really okay with not learning how to slalom. But he said, "You know what? The rest of your group has already been practicing dropping a ski and skiing on 1 ski. You can do it. Tomorrow is our last day of camp, and you're going to ski on 1 ski." Honestly, I was terrified. I'd fallen so many times, and I knew that hurt. And trying to do one more new thing was scary. And that night, as I went to sleep, I was thinking about Jeff and that he said I was going to do it and that I had to do it, and what was the next day going to be like. And I woke up the next morning early before the rest of my cabin and lay in bed just thinking and praying. And as I was thinking and praying, the song came to my mind, our theme song, "Be bold, be strong." I got up, got ready, went with my cabin. We went to the flagpole, and they had the morning flag raising, and then we went down to the camp council bowl where we had worship. We went up to the lodge where we had breakfast, and we had to go back to our cabin area for our duties. Our duty that morning actually was picking up trash around the village. And then we put on our swimsuits, got our towels, and headed on down to the waterfront. Through all that time, each step that I took, be bold, be strong, do not be afraid, do not be dismayed, they just kept going through my head. And when I got down to the waterfront, I did. I had a peace. I had a calm. I could do this. We got in the boat, and Jeff looked around at those of us who were left, and he said, "Okay, who wants to get out first?" And somehow, I don't know exactly how, my hand went up. And Jeff said, "Julie, I know you can do it." So he helped me. We got in the water. He handed me my skis, tossed me the rope, held onto the rope, got that right amount of tightness in the rope, gave him the thumbs up, and off we went. I stood up. I was water skiing. I was good with that. But Jeff knew I could do more. And he gave me the sign to drop my ski. I was scared. And I thought, be bold. Be strong. God is with me. And I slid that foot out and dropped the ski and managed to get right behind the other foot on the one ski, and there I was. I was slalom skiing. Jeff gave me a high sign to go across the wake, and I did. And then he gave me a high sign to go across the other wake. I came off the first, into the middle, went to the other, caught the edge of my ski on the wake, and down I went, splat. My life jacket popped me back up to the surface, and I had the biggest smile on my face because I had overcome something that terrified me. Be bold, be strong, do not be afraid, do not be dismayed. And Jeff came over with the boat and he said, "Are you okay?" And I smiled up and said, "You bet. Can I do it again?" And he smiled and said, "Yep, let's do it." And you know, that experience is something that has been very formative to my life when I have faced fears, because I know that God is with me wherever I go and will help me through whatever challenge it is that I'm facing. A few years later, when I was 15, I was a high school student at a Christian high school, and I had a unique opportunity. You see, every year they would have a student week of prayer. And usually it was all seniors, and they would speak for a week of prayer instead of having one of the grown-up pastors or someone come in and do the speaking. It was the students talking to each other and sharing about Jesus. And that particular student week of prayer, the Friday morning speaker came down with chicken pox on Thursday. And the chaplain came to me that Thursday afternoon. I was 15, a sophomore. And he said, "Julie, I have been impressed by God that you have a word for Jesus to share tomorrow morning. Will you share what Jesus means to you to your school at our week of prayer tomorrow?" I remember this immediate feeling of fear and wondering and thinking, what if my classmates laugh at me? What if I can't think of anything to say? What if I open my mouth and nothing comes out? I can't do this. I mean, I'm only a sophomore. It's the seniors that do all of this. And the chaplain looked at me and he said, "I want to share a Bible story with you." And in this Bible story, we learn about Jeremiah. And Jeremiah was called by God and asked to speak to others for God. And Jeremiah said exactly what you just said. He said, "I'm too young. I can't talk. I don't know what I would say." And God said to Jeremiah, "Don't be afraid. I will go with you, and I will give you the words to say." And Julie, God will give you the words to say if you will be willing to speak for him. And somehow, "Yes, I'll do it," came out of my mouth. And that night I prayed, and I asked my other people in my dorm to pray, and I just asked God to give me the words. And the next morning I went up and I shared what Jesus means to me. And you know what? When I finished and sat down, I had no memory of what I had said. Somehow the Holy Spirit had just come, and the words from God had come out of my mouth for my peers that day. And several people came up to me afterwards and said, "I was just so blessed by what you shared. It just touched my heart." And all I could think of was, those were God's words that he wanted you to hear today. Students, I want to challenge you to think about these stories that I've just shared with you when you are facing things that seem too big, too hard. Maybe it is water skiing. Maybe it is that you've been asked to share Jesus or speak publicly to others or stand up for something that you know is right, but other people are doing it anyway. I don't know what you might face. But I challenge you to consider these examples and remember this. There's a Bible verse that has been my favorite Bible verse since I was a little girl, and it's found in Joshua. Joshua 1 verse 9, and it says this: "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be terrified. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Claim that promise. Do not be afraid. God is with you wherever you go. And I want you to remember my song. Be bold, be strong. Do not be afraid. Do not be dismayed. We're going to end our time together by listening to that song as we close. And I encourage you to take those words to heart and live them in your life. Be bold.
Created using Powtoon.